Jai Janendra. Let's start with the prayers and then we'll carry on with today's topic. Namo Orientanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Ujjayanam, Namo Lui Sabba Sahunam, Eso Panchanamukkaro, Sabba Pava Panasano, Mangalanancha Sabbe Simparmam Havai Mangalam. Namo Orientanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Ujjayanam, Namo Lui Sabba Sahunam. Eso Panchanamukkaro Sappa Pava Panasano Mangalanancha Sabbe Simparmam Havai Mangalam. Namo Rihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Vajjayanam, Namo Loe Sappa Sahunam. Eso Panchanamukkaro Sappa Pava Panasano Mangalanancha Sabbe Simparmam Havai Mangalam. Kamuthe Dharanendra Cha Sujitam Karma Kurvati Prabhusthalya Manovrutti Parshanath Sri Stuvaha Veera Sarasura Surendra Mahito Veermuda Sanskrita Veerena Vyeta Swakarmani Chayo Veera Nityam Nama Veera Tirthamidam Prautamasalam Veera Shigoram Tapo Veera Sri Truti Kirtikanti Nichaya Sri Veerabhadram Disa Anguthe Amrutavase Laptitana Bandar Shri Guru Gautam Samariye Manavanchita Fadadata. Welcome everybody. We are now nearing the end of our topic on Bhagwan Mahavir's previous lives, the 27 lives as I described. Let me share my slides. To all of you who kept your videos on. Okay. Just The slides that we've been sharing, we tidied them up so it's clearer. We started off this particular chapter on the previous lives of Bhagwan Mahavir as part of our topic on Kalp Sutra. Again, I think it's important to remind ourselves that our lives begin to matter only from the time that we enter the first steps of spiritual development. Until then, infinite numbers of lives have no real meaning for the spirit, for the soul, so we are. So, for all the Tirthankar Paramatmas, the narratives of their previous lives starts with the first life when they achieve samyaktva or true faith and knowledge. So Bhagwan Mahavir achieved this in the first life as Naisar, who we heard was a woodcutter. Once, because of his inherent good qualities, is very generous, and in the middle of a jungle is hoping that he could serve some guest before he starts eating his lunch himself. And he spends a lot of time looking for somebody, something that his companions, the other woodcutters, thought was unusual, if not silly. Was right in the middle of a jungle. Where would he find any guests? But lo behold, on that particular day, some Nirgranth Munis, some Jain monks had lost their way in the forest and were uh, visible at a distance, trying to find their way out of the forest. And Naisar goes up to them, finds out uh, how they have ended up in this deep forest, and offers to help them find their way out of the forest, show them the way. But before that, he invites them to share his lunch with them. And the Muni Bhagwans take the food that's given by Naisar, finish their meal, and Naisar finishes his meal. And on the way out of the forest, the Muni Bhagwans, seeing that this is a worthy soul, explain to him what the nature of the soul is, what is the best way to live one's life so that one ultimately uh, progresses spiritually to achieve moksha. And that is the beginning of Bhagwan Mahavir's soul's spiritual journey. And as a result of all the good deeds that he does, the second life is in Saudharma Devlok. And then we looked at the third life as Marichi, again to remind ourselves the grandson of Bhagwan Rishabdev and the son of Chakravarti Bharatdev, and this most significant life. And the even though there was great potential, the mistakes that were made in this life extends the future to moksha by a very, very long time, as we have seen subsequently. And in the fourth life is born as a Dev in Brahmdevlok, in the fifth life as a Brahmin called Kaushik. And in this particular life, the spiritual awakening that had started in the life of Naisar and then formed up in the life of Marichi, but subsequently lost and fallen in that life. In this particular life, these good sanskars disappear, and Kaushik Brahmin spends most of his life in enjoyment and not aware of his spiritual needs, and subsequent to that life spends several lifetimes in subhuman life form, so doesn't even get to be a human being, let alone anything which requires a greater punya. Then in the sixth life, again is born as the subhuman life forms. The numbers are not uh, given, and therefore we don't know how many lives were spent there, but probably quite a large number. But the sixth major life is of Puspamitra Brahmin, again human. Towards the end of that life, he becomes a three-dandi ascetic, acquires a lot of punya, and in the seventh life becomes a dev in Saudharma Devlok. In the eighth life, as Agni Tyot Brahmin, the human, in a place called Chaitya, with a long lifespan of 60 lakh Purva, and towards the end of this long life becomes a three-dandi ascetic again. The ninth life is that of a Dev in the Ishan Devlok. 10th life again as a Brahmin, as we noted before, that this is the life of a Brahmin following the path of an ascetic, not really coming into contact with or having the desire to become a Nirgranth Muni, that is a Muni with a much higher calling in life, with much greater vows, and with the much greater potential for achieving uh, spiritual progress as compared with the vows of a three-dandi ascetic. So again, in the 10th life, Agniputi Brahmin again becomes a three-dandi. 11th life, Sanat Kumar Devlok. 12th life, Bhardwaj Brahmin with a lifespan of 44 lakh Purva, and again becomes a three-dandi ascetic. 13th life in Mahendra Devlok, and 14th life as Thawar as a Brahmin with a lifespan of 34 lakh Purva, and again three-dandi ascetic. 15th life as a Dev in Brahm Devlok, and finally in the 16th life he gets born in a royal household as a prince. He, for the first time after a long time, acquires the necessary background to become a Nirgranth Jain monk, and performs a lot of stuff, but loses his spiritual progress as a result of Niano, where in a fit of anger and state of deep revenge that is burning in his heart at that moment, he wishes for great strength to be able to kill his cousin with whom there has been some enmity in the past. But even as a Nirgranth Muni, even though he may have forgotten this enmity for a long, long time, it just suddenly rekindles because of this incident that we heard about. In the 17th life, born again in Mahasukra Devlok, and in the 18th life, as a result of that Jnana that was conducted in the 16th life as Vishwaputi, he becomes a Vasudev. In this Bharat there is the first Vasudev called Triprusht, and we learned about the circumstances around his birth. So he was actually the son of a king who married his own daughter, and Triprusht is born of that coupling. But in this particular life, as a Triprusht Vasudev, he acquires a lot of bad karmas, and we saw that one of the major incidents in Bhagwan Mahavir's life when the cow herd hammers in nails in Bhagwan Mahavir's both ears, in both of Bhagwan Mahavir's ears, is this particular musician who was with Tripurusht Vasudev in the life, in the 18th life. And that particular bad karma that Bhagwan Mahavir's soul had acquired by pouring molten lead in this musician's ears as a means of punishment comes into fruition in the life of Bhagwan Mahavir. And again, the message to take away from here that no matter who we are, no matter the status of our soul in the future, any bad karmas that have not modified or changed, which have become nikachit and which have stayed as without any kind of repentance or penance, will definitely come to fruition and make us suffer, no matter who we are. So the example here is that this is no ordinary soul. This is Bhagwan Mahavir, future Tirthankar. That is the highest level of spiritual development before becoming a Siddh Bhagwan, that one can acquire the greatest amount of punya that one can acquire is as a Tirthankar Nam Karma. Even if you get to that state, your karmas do not leave you alone. The life following that of Tripurusht Vasudev is spent in the seventh hell. We learned a bit about the description of life in hell, and I mentioned that it gets worse and worse the lower we go, and it becomes longer and longer the lower we go. The 20th life is that as a lion, and in this life as a lion, who by nature is violent and cruel and can only sustain himself by killing other animals, the life after that is spent in the fourth hell. So life 21 is in the fourth hell, which is called Pank Prabha, so named because it is just filled with mud. And quite a long lifespan of 10 Sagarupam is spent in this life. Subsequent to this life, their life is spent in subhuman life forms. And in life number 22, Bhagwan Mahavir's soul is now beginning the spiritual ascent that will ultimately take him up to the life of Bhagwan Mahavir. So in the 22nd life, the soul is born to as a prince to Queen Vimla and King Priyamitra of a city-state of Bharatpur, and he is named Vimal Kumar. The inherent virtues now shine through in this life. Vimal Kumar is kind and generous, and once saves a lot of animals in a forest from cruel hunters, who, while he is with his friends, uh, enjoying the beauty of the forest, but suddenly a lot of animals start running about helter and skelter, trying to escape the arrows that a group of hunters has been uh, throwing, has been shooting uh, to try and kill as many animals as they can. And Vimal Kumar, who was also a very expert bowman, counteracts this, and without hurting anybody, he saves the lives of many animals. He is kind and generous and spends the rest of his time as a prince and then as a king to ensure that the population is spiritually progressive, is safe, and is happy. And he spends many years as a king Towards the end of his life, he becomes a Nirgranth monk. And as a result of all the good deeds and the good punya that he acquires in the 23rd life, he is born as a Chakravarti in Videyakshetra in the city-state of Mukha to Queen Dharini and King Dhananjay. Now, it requires a huge amount of punya to actually become a Chakravarti because the amount of wealth and strength and all the trappings of an emperor are given by this particular punya karma. And so just a reflection of how much punya he would have acquired in the previous life and what he would have done in that life as Vimal Kumar. Queen Dharini saw 14 auspicious dreams at the time of the conception. These dreams are less clear than that of a Tirthankar mother sees, but of the same nature. He is named Priyamitra, and Priyamitra acquires the 14 jewels, Chakravatina Chaudaratno. We don't have time to go through this, but there is a lot of interesting facts about the 14 Ratnas. So by Ratna, it doesn't necessarily just mean jewels as such, but jewels of uh, human beings and animals. So the Chakravarti acquires as the greatest uh, leader of his troops. The Senapati is foremost queen. Sri Ratna is also somebody who is exceptional. So all the exceptional people in that particular world, in that particular time, uh, are under the care of a Chakravarti and are in the service of a Chakravarti. So people, the best horses, the best elephant, uh, all those things are part of the 14 Ratnas. He becomes the emperor of the realm. His lifespan is 84 lakh purvas. And towards the end of his life, he becomes a monk under Putil Acharya. He spends the last 1 crore years, that is 10 million years, of this life as a monk engaged in a very high form of sadhana. In the 24th life, he is born as a Dev in Masuk Devlok in Sarvarth Viman with a lifespan of 17 Sagarupams. Now, this is the most significant life, the life 25, as Nandandkumar. Bhagwan Mahavir's spiritual progress is now rapid. In this 25th life, he is born in this Bharat in the city of Chatrika to King Chitsatru and Queen Bhadra. His lifespan was 25 lakh years, that is 2.5 million years. At the appropriate age, his father, King Jitsatru, crowns him king and he becomes a monk himself. Nandan Kumar reigned peacefully for a long time. He became a monk when 1 lakh years of his life remained. Right at the beginning of his monkhood, of his life as a monk, he takes a vow to eat only once every month. So he does a mass command, so a long fast of 1 whole month, and then break a fast by a meal the day after, and then again take a vow for fasting another month. And he does that for a total of 100,000 years. So one mass command after another, one mass command after another. And in this particular life, the power of his spiritual progress is so evident. I mean, in addition to this kind of severe penance, internally, the nature of his development, the nature of his thoughts, the state of his soul is becoming purer and purer. and he has deep-rooted compassion for all living beings and a great desire to make all living beings happy and follow the path to moksha. He acquires the Tirthankar Nam Karma and made it firm. Sorry, the spelling mistake there. Made it firm, not form, so that it's guaranteed to come to fruition. What this means in Gujarati is that he formed a nikachit karma, which is guaranteed to give you fruit, and this is the strongest punya karma. So once it becomes guaranteed, becomes nikachit, there can't be any changes to that. And that kind of karma is what all Tirthankars, Paramatmas have acquired before they become Tirthankars. And that particular karma, punya karma, it begins to form when the level of benevolence for all living beings, for all life, the level of love for all living beings, and understanding the nature of the existence of all life and the great pain and suffering that we all go through from one birth to another birth, because we do not know the nature of our existence, the nature of our souls, and do not have the knowledge to get out of the cycle of birth and death. And the Tirthankar Bhagwan's soul understands this, and then very, very compassionately, strongly feels that if I had the power, jo howe mujhe sakti ishi. Sorry, spelling mistake here again. Is Shakti. Shakti isi savi jiva karu sasana rasi. Meaning that if I have the power to help every living being to become happier and to progress spiritually so that they get out of this cycle of birth and death, then I will ensure that every life has that opportunity, and I will do my utmost. And this very, very strong desire, which is held for a long time and on a continuous basis, is what results in the formation of this Tirthankar Nam Karma. So this particular bhavna is at the root of the birth of all Tirthankars. Those of you who have attended or listened to the Snatra Pujas, that is the celebration of the birth of a Tirthankar Paramatma, that is conducted every day in all in most of derasas. So I think that happens in Kenton Derasa, probably on special occasions happens at Porter's Bar, and also in Colindale. There is this particular stanza in that puja which starts with this: Jo howe mujhe sakti isi savijiv karo sasana rasi, suchi ras dhadte tiha bandhta tirthankar naam nikachanta, saragat hi संयम आचरी वचमा एक देवनो भव करी, चवि पन्नर क्षेत्रे अवतरे मध्य खंडे पण राजवी कूले, पटराणी कुखे गुण नीलो जेम मान सरोवर हंसलो, सुख स्याये रजनी से उतरता चौद सूपन देखे. And then the description of the 14 dreams. Pele gajvar dito biche rusab paito, and it goes on like that. So this particular stanza describes how all Tirthankas acquire this karma. So before, they also do what is called the Aradhana of Vis Sthanak. So this particular punya starts off with this particular bhavna, but also it is formed up with this Vissthanak vidhiye tapakari. ऐसी भाव दया दिल माधुरी जो होवे मुझ शक्ति सी सभी जीव करू शासन रसी. There is this particular tap called Vissthanak. Those of you are interested, there are descriptions of how a lot of people do it in these days as well. But it's not just the tap, it is that bhavna behind it and the strength of that bhavna that helps a soul acquire Tirthankar Nam Karma. And that last 100,000 years spent in performing this kind of deep rooted spiritual development meditation, which towards the end also takes this form. And I'd like here to actually read that out to you, because what happens towards the in terms of the state of mind of a Tirthankar Paramatma, there is a very nice description that Sunanatha Vora gives here. Nandan Muni, towards the end of his life, and when he takes the vow for the last month of his fast, he reviews and evaluates his life, and the description that is given here, and you may find a more elaborate and a different description in probably Trisasti Salaka Purush Charitra, but I'll just briefly translate what is said here. And I think it's important for us to understand what goes on in the souls and in the hearts of great people when they are on a path to meditation, which takes us very to very high level spiritually and results in the riddance of a huge amount of karmas. So here, Nandan Munini Antim Bhavna. What is described here, if I have done anything which is contrary to right conduct in the pursuit of Gnanachar, meaning the rules that I should follow when I am serving knowledge, so Gnanachar, then I ask for forgiveness. So he starts with lightening his soul, admitting any mistakes knowingly and unknowingly, and clearing the mind out. So it is kind of making peace with the whole universe and with oneself, recognizing one's mistakes, and especially in the pursuit of this very high level spiritual path. નિસંકિત વગેરે જે 8 પ્રકારનો દર્શનાચાર કયો છે. That means my faith in what is right and what is wrong, and my understanding, if I have deviated from that faith, if I have misunderstood, or if I have, as a result of any kashais, if I have not followed that particular path in the right way as advised by our Tirthankar Paramatmas and Guru Bhagwans, then ask for forgiveness. Then he says, as a result of greed and as a result of more, if I have killed or hurt any Sukshma or Badar, meaning any life that is obvious, a life form that I can see, but also lots of other life forms that I cannot actually see with my normal sight, which in my daily conduct, as a result of greed and as a result of more, if I have hurt anybody, then I ask for forgiveness. If as a result of mirth, meaning uh, seeing the funny side of things, as a result of fear, as a result of anger, as a result of greed again, if I've said anything that is not right, that is wrong, musha, to sarva ninduchu. So I'm saying sorry for that, that if I've said anything which is untruth, then I'm asking for forgiveness. And he's thinking this not just for that particular life, he's thinking this for in terms of all previous lives. So in any life, so the relationship here is not limited to that particular life. The relationship here is to the soul's journey from time immemorial. From the time the journey started, everything wrong that I have done. So if you remember, those of you who attended or performed Pratikama, when we say 7 lakh Pudvikai, 7 lakh Apkai, 7 lakh Devkai, 7 lakh Vaukai, and the Adar Papstanak. The words at the end are 84 lakh Jiva Yoni Mai, Mare Jive, Je Koi Jiv, Hanyo Hoy, Hanavyo Hoy, Anta Prate Anumodyu Hoy. So the carefully chosen words are Mare Jive, meaning me as the soul, any time in the past, not just limited to this particular life. So that is the level of acceptance of the whole sequence of wrongdoing from any time in the past. So an understanding, so this actually behooves the idea that one has begun to understand where one comes from. One has begun to understand what potential mistakes and wrongdoings the soul has conducted from life after life, and recognizing what has been wrong in our lives in the past is the beginning of spiritual progress. Krodh and lobh vagati mein musha apasan. So if I've said anything that is untruth, with any love and hate, with any partiality and with any hatred, if I have stolen something, if I have taken something from somebody without their permission, adat pardravya lidu hoy te sarvane vosiravu છું. So I'm saying sorry for that. If I've not followed any kind of celibacy, which is the natural state of the soul, in any of my lives as an animal, as an insect, as a human being, as a dev, then again I'm asking for forgiveness. If as a result of my greed I've accumulated grains, I've accumulated food, I've accumulated clothes, I've accumulated uh, wealth, meaning money, I've accumulated animals, so I've accumulated more and more. Uh, so Gaudan, if say, for example, farmers say, look at how many cows do you look after, how many animals do you have? So in a lot of societies, animals are considered as wealth. So how many heads of cattle do you have? And in some African societies, that kind of barter system still goes on. Dowry is paid in the number of animals that are given to the uh, to the potential wife's family or to the potential husband's family. So Again, here there is a particular mention of પશુ વગેરે બહુ પ્રકારનો પરિગ્રહ મેં પૂર્વ ધારણ કર્યો હોય તો એને મનોચન કાયાથી બોસિરાવું છું. Again, whatever attachment that I may have had, not just to things but also to people, family members, putra, stri, mitra, dhan, dhanya, guru, my house, my possessions, any kind of attachment, I'm asking for forgiveness for holding that kind of attachment because that is not my nature. As a soul, I'm nisparigrahi. If, as a result of my hunger and as a result of the desires of my senses, I have eaten after sunset, in that particular vow, in the current times, our monks actually take 5 vows, but in addition, a special vow of not eating after sunset. રાત્રે ચતુર્વેદ આહાર કર્યો હોય તેને પણ હું મનોચન કાયાથી નિંદુ છું. And then he talks about all the 18 papsthana, krodh, man, maya, lobh, rag, dvesh, kalha, paishunya, ratirati, parparivad, maya, mursavad, mithyatvasarya, and anything wrong that may have done. And then he goes on to talk about the penance, the tap, and anything that is not conducted rightly for tapachar, meaning that not follow the path that has been described and dictated. Again, asking for forgiveness in that. And once the soul is lightened with this level of forgiveness and acceptance of all the wrongs that the soul has committed in any life in the past, including this life, he goes on to say that I've got friendship with all life. That I recognize that everything that is not of me, that is outside of me, everything that is temporary is not really my particular gun or my particular wealth. So any attachment that I have to, say, for example, youth, to wealth, to beauty, to attachment to other people, all these things are temporary, and any attachment that I have held for any of this, I should discard because those are not permanent and they do not actually serve anybody. વ્યાધિ જન્મ જરા મૃત્યુથી ગ્રસ્ત થયેલા પ્રાણીઓને જીનોદિત ધર્મ વિના સંસારમાં બીજું કોઈ શરણ નથી. So accepts that the soul in its migration from one life to other in the journey of the sansar, there is no peace, there is no happiness, and the only peaceful place and only permanent place when the soul is free from all this karma, all this pap, is in moksha, and I accept that. And he recognizes that attachment is fruitless because the soul is born alone, dies alone. He alone experiences any happiness as a result of good karmas, and he alone experiences any pain as a result of bad karmas. Nobody can share our happiness or our pain because that is completely individual. So our attachment to everything else and everybody else is futile because nobody can really share anything with us. This body in itself is also something that I shouldn't be attached to, because all it is, it's a temporary envelope of blood, of flesh, of fat, of all kinds of material that as soon as they are detached from the body become very smelly and very not good to look at. And to be attached to such a body and be proud of that is actually the mark of somebody who is not smart, who is murk. This body is ultimately like that of a rented property. Sooner or later, you're going to have to empty it. We feel we possess our body and we identify with it and we say, this is my body. But here he's thinking that this body is like a house that I've rented. It is not mine. I'm going to have to abandon it when the time comes, when the rental agreement expires, when the lease runs out. Then you cannot continue to stay in this body. And he's trying to tell himself, understand that, and this is a message to all of us as well, that this is how the nature of ourselves is and how we can, by understanding and incorporating this in life, progress spiritually. Therefore, I shouldn't be worrying so much about the body. Whoever is born has to die, whether you get born in Devlok with a very long lifespan of 33 Sagarupams, it still comes to an end. And then at the end, he says that I accept Saran of the Arihant. So Char Saran. Chattari Mangalam, Marihanta Mangalam, Siddha Mangalam, Sahu Mangalam, Kevali Pannatto Tamo Mangalam. Chattari Loguttama, Arihanta Loguttama, Siddha Loguttama, Sahu Loguttama, Kevali Pannatto Tamo Loguttamo. And then finally, Chattari Sharanam Pavachami, Arihante Sharanam Pavachami. In this journey, in sansar of life and death, there is nothing that provides respite and recluse to any living being except this four. The first one is Arihant Paramatma, the second one is Siddh Paramatma, the third is Sadhu Bhagwans, Nirgranth Munis, and the fourth is the words, the dharma that has been propagated by those with complete and total knowledge and without any attachment to anything. So those who are vitrag and sarogna. Kevali pannatto dhammo saranam. So he says, I bow down to the Aryans, I bow down to the Siddhs, I bow down to the Muni Bhagwans, and I bow down to the Dharma, and I discard anything that is not right, that is wrong, that is of uh, any kind of that causes any kind of hurt to any living beings, whether I can see them or not, whether they are one sensed or five sensed. And towards the end of this life, Nandandkumar goes into this state of deep meditation with his thoughts that start, and the soul gets purer and purer. And that life of 25 lakh varas, the 2500, 2.5 million years ends, and the soul is born in Pranath Devlok in Pushpotor Vatansak Viman with a lifespan of 20 Sagarupams. That is the last life before that of Bhagwan Mahavir. We have looked at all the 27 lives of Bhagwan Mahavir, and then life 27, Tirthankar Bhagwan Mahavir. We started off with this particular incident of Bhagwan Mahavir's life and how it starts, and the soul gets born in the womb of Devananda Brahmini. And we saw the reason why that happens, and we also heard about what Indra, the Devlok, is thinking, that this is a very unusual event. The Tirthankar Paramatma is never born in any other caste except that of a royal household, so in the Kshatriya Kul, and this is an unusual event. And then we heard about the 10 unusual events that have happened in this particular Ausarpini in context with that particular incident. And then at the end of 3 months, Indra Maharaja orders one of his devs who has the necessary skills, called Haringameshi Dev, to transplant the womb of Bhagwan Mahavir into the womb of Trishla Mata and transfer her womb, her fetus, into the womb of Devananda Brahmani. And that is how we started off with this particular narrative of Bhagwan Mahavir's previous lives. As we've discussed before, we had started off thinking that we would continue with different aspects of the narratives in the whole of Kalpasutra. But I think this may become very, very long. There are the life stories of Bhagwan Rushabdev, Bhagwan Parshanath, and very briefly those of the other Tirthankars as well. And there are lots of other things that are included in the Kalpasutra. And as we've discussed, it might be a good idea to switch to a different topic. We still not completely made up our mind about the next topic, but the suggestions were Nav Tattva and maybe something about the Jain geography, and we'll incorporate the two of them if that's the topic that we choose. But if somebody comes back with anything in particular and people feel strongly about that, then we can discuss that as well. And thank you to all those who have kept their videos on. You can switch them on now, and let's spend some time with any questions that you might have. Anybody?
Pranam Ajitbhai.
Pranam.
Would you mind briefly touching on the Vistanakta that Muni, I forgot the name, did?
Yeah. I think we'll need to, there are various pads that are worshipped as part of that tap, very briefly. And there is a particular vidhi for following that. There are books on tap which can give you the whole vidhi, and there are people who have sort of conducted that. If you are interested, then maybe in tomorrow's class, we can discuss some of this, and I think probably Manju Ben may and Punita Ben may have more details of that, so I can share that with you hopefully tomorrow. But then I'll try and dig out the details. I think there is a book that I've got which describes the whole vidhi of the Visthanak Tap. So we can discuss that at some other time. Is that okay, Bijal?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I thought I got the impression that what was done in Mahavir Bhagwan's life was different to what's being practiced today. So that's what I was asking.
Possible, but what is described in the books is that Visthanak ni aradhana kari, meaning the Visthanak vidhi tap kari. And in this particular stanza of the puja, Snatra Puja, Pandit Veer Vijayji particularly describes this. Vissthanak vidhiye tap kari, aisi bhav daya dil madari. Jo hove mujhe sakti isi, savi jeev karu sasan rasi. Suchi ras dadte tiha bandhta, tirthankar naam nikachanta. So that is how it's described. But if there are differences in that, then our Guru Bhagwans would know. I don't have that knowledge. Jayeshbhai might know. I don't know, unless Bharatbhai, you have an idea of the details there, if it is different from what it was then.
Sorry, Ajitbhai, I don't have the details. I've heard about Isthanak Tap. It's very difficult tap and a long tap as well, but I don't have any more details.
Yeah. Okay, we'll try and find more details, Bijal.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. The important thing to understand is that we are looking at the soul becoming purer, becoming discarding all that is as a result of bad karmas and the parinati that it is should have. So the state of the soul, the nature of the soul is becoming purer and purer, and that is where the core of the development is. So the particular penance, if that does not result in the soul becoming purer, then that does not necessarily have the same benefit. So always we must remember that in every particular religious practice that we do, the greater benefit or the greatest benefit comes from how deeply involved at the spiritual level we get into that particular activity. So it's not just about doing, it's about through the medium of that doing, changing our being. And I hope everybody is sort of taking this in. Whatever we do in religious practice definitely has benefit and will definitely give us the fruits. However, the greatest fruit comes when that doing is accompanied by a change in our being towards the better. Any other question?
Ajitbhai, I had a question.
Yeah.
So Bhagwan Mahavir, he went through 27 lives after he got Gnan, is that correct?
No, after he got Samyak Gnan. Samyak Gnan is a first step. After you got Keval Gnan, the soul does not have another life after that. When the lifespan for that particular life finishes, the soul would go to moksha. There is no two way about it. So once you achieve Gnan, your spiritual progress has been completed. You are perfect.
And he was the only Tirthankar that had the longest life.
Longest number of lives, yes.
Yeah. So if he knew that he was going to become Tirthankar, how comes he didn't shed his karmas quicker?
You see, as we saw in the life of Marichi, Bharat Chakravarti, his father, comes to Marichi, who is by this time a Tridandi monk, a Tridandi ascetic, joins his hand. So it's his father. He's also the Chakravarti of the kingdom. So his status is the emperor of the realm. He comes to him and joins his hands towards him, goes round him 3 times, bows down to him, and says to him, I am paying respects to you, not because of this particular form and the graph that you have, but I've just heard from Bhagwan Rishabdev that you are going to be the 24th Tirthankar in this time cycle, in this Avsarpini. I won't be around, but I am very fortunate to have met a future Tirthankar now, because that is a question that I asked. Is there anybody else here who is going to become a Tirthankar as well, Bhagwan Rushabdev? He asks him. Bhagwan says, your own son, Marichi, will be the 24th Tirthankar. And then Bharat Chakravarti says that Bhagwan Rushabdev also said that not only that, you will also be the first Vasudev Triprusht, and you will also be a Chakravarti in one of your future lives. Now, hearing all this, what did Marichi do? So we are going to answer your question about why he did not shed his karmas. If that was within our control, then none of us would be here. If it was something that if we had developed to that level spiritually, to be able to actually understand what's going on and then make amends and make it in a determined way that we never make a mistake again, Marichi was much greater than us at that time. His level of knowledge was great as well. His background was fantastic, but he lost his path. So, to answer your question, why did he not? He lost his path, he lost his way, he became proud. He started jumping up and down with joy and saying, my cool is so great. My dada is the first Tirthankar, my dad is the first Chakravarti. I will be the last Tirthankar of this time cycle. I will also be a Vasudeva, I will also be a Chakravarti. So these are the highest positions in the universe, and I will have acquired all of them. Not only that, my family has also been in that. So I'm of such a great family lineage. So that pride in itself is a real drop. And the other pride that he had, the other fault that he did, you know, is when he became a greed ascetic, took liberties, but worse than that, he told Kapil that my path is as good as the Bhagwan Rishabhde's path, which was a falsehood. So in spite of being aware, the path was lost. And there are hundreds of examples of how great people have lost their path, have lost their way. So the message for us is, first of all, discard your pride and listen and learn and accept humbly that we all make mistakes. So forgive others' mistakes, but also be aware that we are making mistakes all the time. And I'm talking about spiritually, not just in normal terms. Hope that helps, Darsha.
That does. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Ajitbhai, I've got a question.
Yeah.
So you said that all previous Tirthankars are born into a royal household. So does that mean in the next Jolisi the same thing will happen?
Sorry, repeat your question. It's Mira, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mahavir Bhagwan was born into a royal household.
mhm.
So you mentioned that the Tirthankars
Don't normally get born in any other school. Yeah.
So is that the same? Will that be the case in the next Jolisi?
No. I mean, this was an exception.
Okay.
And this was an exception in this particular Kausapini, in this particular Chovisi. And that exception occurs, and nature of that exception may vary. But this is called a Hunda Kausarpini. Hunda Kausarpini is that this is not the only exception. There are 9 others where very, very unusual events happened. And they don't happen often. I mean, in cosmic terms, these are extremely, extremely, extremely rare events. So the rule is a Tirthankar Paramatma is generally born in a royal household. A Tirthankar Paramatma is almost always born as a male human being, never as a female human being. But we had that as an exception in this particular time cycle as well. Malinath Bhagwan was a female Tirthankar, so that is not common. That is an exception in this particular time cycle. So if and when something like this may have ever happened again, or has happened in the past, is something that only a Kevagnani would know. Not that it has never happened before, but this particular Hausarpini, what is described is that these are extremely rare, unusual events that can happen after a very, 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 very long time.
Okay, thank you.
So next choice is very normal if we are all here in that. And if we spend the 5th ara or the equivalent of 5th ara in the next Chovisi, then we may find that the world is actually a much better place than it is now. Don't know where any one of us will be. Okay. Anybody else? I've heard informally from a few people who don't have the videos on that they enjoy the class and that they are listening and paying attention. So if anybody wants to switch on their videos and tell me, Deepa, Shailina, Sandeep, you're welcome. No? Then let's
Thank you.
bring this to an end. Anybody? Now, I'll have a word with Sandeep Bhai to decide when we start the new topic. He was talking about a break with another lecturer in between, one of the other teachers. So I'll discuss this with him, and you'll get a message about how we are starting the next topic. But since we've not had any other suggestions, then we'll probably choose the topic of Now Tattva for our next class. Okay, whenever we start that. Okay, but if there are any questions, keep on sending them on the email that you have, or send them to Sandeep and he'll forward them to me. Okay. If I've said anything that is against the teachings of Jain Dharma, of great Tirthankars and our Guru Bhagwans, I ask for forgiveness. जिनाग्ना विरुद्ध कहीं पण बोलाय किंवा विचार होय ते सभी हो मनोचन काय करी तस्मिच्छामि दुक्कडम सर्वमंगल मांगल्यम सर्वकल्याण कारणम प्रधानम सर्वधर्माणां जैनम जयति शासनम. Thank you all.
Thank you
Bye.
very much.
Pranam Ajitbhai, thank you.
Bharat, thank you.
Thank you.
Pranam Ajitbhai, thank you.
Thank you, Shilavan. Thank you.
Jai Jinendra all.